I've run into quite a few very interesting relationship slash gender themed videos over the last few weeks. So I'm going to use this video to respond to them and make some points of my own. So here goes. The first video I want to talk about is one where a guy was saying that women's only power in a relationship is sex. Or to put it another way, women's only bargaining chip in a relationship is sex. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, so don't jump into any conclusions just yet. But the thing that I noticed is that when I looked down in the comment section, the men were taking that to mean that sex is all women are good for, that's all they have to offer, which that's two totally separate things. On one hand, if, and I'm saying if a woman's only power in a relationship is sex, that's not the same thing as saying that's all they have to offer, that's all they're good for. But anyway, the person who made the video was talking about how women use sex as leverage in a relationship. Let me say this. If you're in a so-called relationship where you need leverage, it's already fucked from the get-go. In a good, healthy, happy relationship, you should need leverage. When you're using leverage, that means that you're not on the same page somehow. That means you're jockeying for position. That means that possibly you have, or not even possibly, that you have interests that are in conflict. So you have to try to use something to pull the advantage over to your side. That's what leverage is about. So if you're having that type of situation, your relationship is already fucked. The second point I want to make is what you can use as leverage in a relationship depends on who you're dealing with, and it depends on what they value. If all the person you're with values is sex, then that would be your leverage. But again, if you have to use leverage in a relationship, it's already fucked. So if what we're talking about is an already fucked relationship, then as they say, all is fair in love and war. It would be kind of like if, and this is just an analogy, so just take it as an analogy. A parent, if they want to punish their child, then they want to punish them by like taking one of their favorite things away. Okay, if the parent knows that the child loves to talk on the phone, then you take the phone away. If the parent knows that the child likes to get on the computer, take the computer away. If he likes the Wii, you take the Wii away. You don't take away something that they don't give a damn about, like their teddy bear or something. You go for what you know they like. You go for their favorite thing. And even in this situation, if you're using a toy as leverage against a child, it's because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Or you're not getting what you want out of the child, or you're not getting the behavior that you desire out of the child. If the child is doing what you want it to do, you don't need leverage. You don't need to take anything away. You don't need to put them on punishment. None of that. So again, if we're talking about leverage, we're talking about a relationship that's not what it's supposed to be. Alright, next I want to address the men who were misinterpreting the video maker's point to mean that women are only good for sex, or that's all they have to offer. Alright, let's say you're hunting for a job as a nanny or an au pair or whatever. So somebody puts an ad saying they're looking for somebody who is over 40, has at least 10 years experience, can cook good, healthy, delicious food, would prefer a retired school teacher because they have the education to be able to help the kids with their homework or whatever, or to be able to teach the kids stuff. And then they go and say, you know, we're of Japanese descent, so we would love to have somebody who knows Japanese because we would love for our children to speak Japanese too. So if you know Japanese and can teach it to the kids, that's a plus. Now they're only requiring the first 5 or 6 things I mentioned. The speaking Japanese is a plus. So if you go to apply for a job and everybody else only has the first 5 or 6 things I mentioned, and you're the only one who speaks Japanese, guess what you have? Leverage. You can use the fact that you know Japanese to drive up your salary. Now, does that mean that all you're good for is Japanese? No, you can do other things, but the Japanese is the icing on the cake that the people are looking for, so that is your leverage. So again, what you can use as leverage depends on what the person you're interacting with wants. But that doesn't mean that's all you're good for, and it doesn't mean that's all you have to offer. Now, do women use sex as leverage? Absolutely. Is sex women's only power in a relationship? Well, if they're dealing with a man who only values sex, then yes, that would be their only power. And some women, once the man is no longer interested in her personally, if he had kids with her, they use the kids as leverage. But again, if you're to the point where you need leverage, the relationship has already gone sour. So we're not talking about a healthy, loving relationship here. We're talking about a power struggle or a competition or something. And that's not what a relationship is supposed to be. Or at least that's not my idea of a relationship. That maybe some people like drama, but I don't. Now, I've been watching videos over the last few weeks by men of all races who are frustrated with American women and frustrated with the dating scene period here in America. And I don't necessarily disagree with the things that they're saying. Here's the thing. They want to go on and on about how women play games and how they won't let them have any sex and how they gave this chick their number and she never called, or vice versa. He gets her number and when he calls her, she doesn't pick up. Now, I'm not saying women don't do that. They absolutely do that. But men play their games too. It's just a different type of play and a different type of game. Both sides play games and the whole thing is just turned into one big game where both sides are trying to get as much as they can out of the other without giving. There are winners in this game and losers in this game. And of course, winning and losing is subjective. It depends on what your goal is and what you want. So anyway, there are men out there who say, you know what? I just want sex. I don't want a girlfriend, don't want a wife, I don't want kids, I don't want any type of relationship. And some of them even say, I don't even want to take you out on a date. I'm just looking to get my dipstick wet. Alright, if these men want to have that attitude, that's fine, but then they get mad when women don't want to sleep with them. They act like we're being stingy or playing games, when in actuality, I just want to know why you deserve to get what you want and not give anything in return. And I'm not necessarily talking about money, but I'm not excluding it either. I'm talking about anything that a female may want from a male, whether it be his time, his love, his affection, whatever. If a woman is giving you something you want, as in sex, why don't you give her something back? Why don't you feel that you should give something back? And it's men who have an attitude like this who ruin women for a lot of the other men. Once women have dealt with men who play them, who pump them and dump them, that changes how they see men. That changes how they interact with men. And since women aren't really able to get back at men like this because a lot of times they're smart enough not to have kids, not to get married by them, so they have nothing to quote unquote get him with, they take it out on other men who haven't done anything to them. And then a lot of these guys, once they've dealt with women who have screwed them over, they become like the first group of guys who have this, we don't love them hoes attitudes, pump them and dump them type of attitude. So a lot of the people, both men and women, who become predators were once prey. But I think a big problem in American relationships is that people have forgotten what fair is. If two people are going to go out, they should both be getting something that they want out of the interaction. Back in my grandmother's generation, men and women were kind of still on the same page as far as what they wanted. Or at least, I'd say they're on the same page. And there was like a trade-off that was understood. The man's like, okay, I'm going to marry you and support you. I'll put you up in a house. I'll provide food. And you keep that house clean. You cook the food for me. And you raise children if I want to have them. So back then, people could go on multiple dates and not have sex. And the guy didn't necessarily feel like he was getting cheated because the goal was to get married. And then he would, get sex within the marriage along with other benefits. A lot of couples wouldn't even have sex before they got married. But today, it's kind of like we're mixing old school with new school. People still want to have this holy moly attitude about sex, but then get mad when people don't want to have sex with you. Like a lot of guys will say if a woman sleeps with him on the first date, she's a whore and he's not going to deal with her anymore. Alright, so women know this, so that's why they withhold sex, not necessarily that they're playing a game, but they're trying to protect their reputation. And then, when the woman does that, the men want to accuse the women of playing games. Oh, you're trying to control me with sex, you're playing games, you ain't giving it up, yada yada yada. No, it's not that. It's just if she sleeps with the guy in a time period that he deems to be too soon, and he drops her, then she did not get what she wanted out of him, which was a relationship or, whatever she wanted. And that leaves the woman in a state of feeling cheated. On the flip side, you have, your regular guys who aren't players. They're willing to take the chick out for dates and pay for everything. They're willing to suffer through watching chick flicks at her apartment and snuggling with her and all that stuff. But if he does all that and then for some reason she breaks up with him either because she's just not feeling him or, she actually was playing or, she generally just it just didn't work out, then he's in a state of feeling cheated. And just because a girl decides not to see a guy after 2 or 3 dates and he's, spent $50 a date, let's just say, it doesn't necessarily mean that she's playing games. I mean, there is such a thing as you go out on a few dates with a guy and you just realize he's just not your cup of tea. But even still, the guy still feels like she might be playing games, or he feels cheated because he did shell out that money and didn't get what he was looking for. So he can try to keep that from happening the next time by maybe taking the girl on dates that don't cost as much, but then that's going to be interpreted by her as, oh, he's being a cheapskate, or he thinks he's going to take me to McDonald's and then hit this, he must be crazy. You could at least take me to the Olive Garden. And then the guy's saying, well, the Olive Garden is expensive, and if I take you out there and then you decide you don't like me, then I'm out whatever money I spent. And it's kind of like a broken situation that I'm not really sure how you could fix, because things are never going to go back to the way they were, where, people get married at 20 and stay married for 50 years. And that people get married with the understanding, okay, the man's going to be the provider and the woman's going to be the homemaker. She's going to take care of the kids, going to cook the food, yada, yada, yada. And I don't think we'll ever get back to a situation like that, because first of all, our economy doesn't allow for it. Both the husband and the wife generally have to work these days, so there's just really no way for us to get back to that. And even if we could, how many people would want to? But anyway, it's kind of like we're mixing old school with new school, because we still have this date etiquette. Okay, it's not proper to sleep with somebody before a certain amount of dates. But then again, if we were truly sticking with the old school, then you probably wouldn't really be having sex before marriage. And I'm not saying people back then didn't have sex before marriage, but it was still not something people advertised. I mean, now people openly admit that they have premarital sex, but that wasn't the case back then, even though it did happen. So it's like the women get called whores for giving it up, but then if they withhold it, people want to get mad because they're playing games and not giving it up. And then you have some men who want sex but don't want to give anything back, like affection or money or whatever the woman wants. I'm not just talking about money. Whatever the woman wants from a man, whether it's support, a marriage, a family, whatever she wants. You got some men who want sex but don't want to give. And then of course you got some women who want what they want but they don't want to give. Now, I had found my solution to this back when I was single, and it only works for a woman for a certain amount of years, and then you gotta switch it up. But then I was listening to a guy who makes videos here on YouTube. He's a black guy, and I found out what the male alternative to that was. Say what you want to say, but the most honest type of relationship I think that's left in the United States is that of a sugar daddy, sugar baby, and also that of a prostitute and a John. Now, excluding prostitutes who, sneak in your wallet while you're sleeping and take more than what you agreed upon. I'm not talking about that. I mean, in general, these are very honest relationships because each person knows their role. And this is just like marriages used to be, where everybody knew their role, so there was not really a lot of competition. So anyway, in a sugar daddy, sugar baby relationship, the woman knows that she's there because the man wants a hot, young, beautiful chick to be his companion, to, have on his arm, make him look good, to, sleep with. And the man knows he's there because the woman wants his support. And it's fair because each person gets what they want. And in that sense, it's just like how marriage used to be, where the man says, I want somebody to be home and cook my meals and take care of my house, have children if I want them, and I will support you. And it's the same thing with a prostitute and a John. She knows she's there to have sex with him, and he knows that he's going to have to pay her for her time. He gets the sex he wants, she gets the money she wants or needs. It's like a fair transaction. Everybody walks away happy. In a prostitute-John relationship, the woman doesn't have to worry about, how soon do I give it up? Is he going to think I'm a whore? And the guy doesn't have to worry about, okay, I'm going to shell out all this money. Am I going to get any? And it's the same thing with the sugar daddy, sugar baby. She ain't got to worry about, okay, when do I give it up? And he ain't got to worry about, am I going to get some? And he also doesn't have to worry about, what do I do if, in a marriage, it's until death do us part, rich or poor, better or worse, whatever. So, if you marry a chick and then, 5 years down the line, she decides to let herself go, then you're stuck with that. Whereas with the sugar baby, sugar daddy relationship, she knows she's there to be a hot chick. So her first job is to keep herself looking good. And the second job would be to keep him satisfied sexually, I guess. But, everybody knows their role. In an old school marriage, everybody knows their role. The woman cooks, she keeps the house, she, takes care of the kids. The man brings home the bacon. And everybody knows their role. And I hope everybody gets what I'm saying instead of getting hung up on the morality issue, okay? I'm not talking about morality right now. I'm talking about what's fair. I think American relationships have lost a sense of fairness. People are walking away from interactions or relationships feeling cheated because they didn't get what they wanted because the relationship ended after one person got what they want, but before the second person got what they wanted. The guy takes the girl out to dinner, spends $70 a date 3 times, and then she decides, well, I'm just not into you, I'm sorry. And then the guy, takes the girl out on one date, or, they go out one time, and he hits it, and then he leaves her. She didn't get what she wanted. So while I wouldn't say I'm a proponent of prostitution, I'm not against it because I think people should be able to have sex for whatever reason that they want, and it's not really anybody's business. But besides that, if a guy wants to have sex and he just doesn't want to deal with any bullshit, then I would rather him pay somebody and at least she gets something out of the relationship that she wants rather than him just going playing chicks, turning her bitter, and then she goes and screws over some guys and turns them bitter, and then they screw over more women and that turns them bitter, and everybody's just bitter, and it turns into a big game where everybody's trying to get as much as they can without giving out. So unless we're going to have old school marriages, which again I don't think we'll ever go back to, then we need to go to a system of complete trade-off. Because this in the middle shit ain't working. Taking half of the old school and mixing it with the new school is fucking everybody. So if I wasn't married and I hadn't met this great guy, I'd still be a sugar baby because at least then I know what I'm going to get. I know what he wants. He knows what I want. We trade and everybody's happy. My sugar daddy, sugar baby relationships were some of the most happy relationships I've ever had. The only thing is that they don't last, and as you get older, it's going to get harder and harder to do. You're going to be competing with younger, hotter chicks, so it's not something you can do all your life. But anyway, the point I want to make is the games that get played in the dating scene in America, I don't think it's the fault of the women. I don't think it's the fault of the men. Both sides keep playing off of each other to the point where you can't really put the blame all on one side, or even mostly on one side. Like I said, a lot of people who are now predators were once the prey. A lot of people who act the way they are is because of the experiences they had. They got screwed over by somebody else, and now that's changed their whole outlook on things. Tom Likas even said that's the reason he is the way he is today. And I kind of get frustrated with, hearing, black guys complain about black women as if they're just bitches, or men in general complaining about American women as if they're just bitches, when it's just the society that we live in. And, if you have, and I was listening to the black guy who makes the videos, he travels a lot. He said he's seen women who came from, some other country where women aren't as, snobby or whatever. And they get over here in the United States and they adopt the same attitude as the other American women. And it's because, you have to. If you don't, you'll get eaten up. They probably came over here being nice sweetie pies and they ran into a predator. In fact, my roommate from the Netherlands, the one I was telling you about, who put the cornrows in her hair and all of a sudden all the black guys started hitting on her. She wasn't into black guys, but she got pumped and dumped by like 3 guys before she figured out that it was a different ball game over here in the United States. And the guys who did this, I don't even necessarily, now they may have been assholes, but they may not have necessarily been assholes, but they may have seen that this is a beautiful girl and I know how beautiful girls act, so they expected her to act that way, not knowing that she came from a different culture where they don't necessarily act like American women. And I know some people have said it's all Western women, and then I've heard some men say that American women are the worst, or, there's some places in Europe that aren't as bad. But she really was a sweet girl, and I think she had to wise up to keep herself from getting used. But she had gotten kind of a reputation in the dorm we were living in, because she was just taking everything these guys said at face value. And I don't know if people are really like that over in the Netherlands, where the guys don't lie and they don't try to take advantage of girls. I don't know how they are over there, but she just was not prepared for the dating game over here in America, but she had to get prepared. So anyway, it's not that American women are so horrible in and of themselves. It's that this is a dog-eat-dog society we live in. It's a dog-eat-dog dating scene. If you're a sweet, lovable, caring person dating in America, you're either going to get used or you're going to toughen up and learn the game. And that's just how it is, unfortunately.